Hey, welcome everyone. I wanted to welcome, hey, wave, hey. Thank you for joining us on this very momentous event. And we're in the Museum of Other Realities, as we all know. And for the last few days or so, we've been having a really good time exploring the space. And I didn't realize what an amazing piece of architecture this is, and also all the different exhibits. So after Kevin and Dan speak, Kevin's going to be giving tours around the space, giving tours of his artwork, and you have to check it out. It's just phenomenal. You can actually be part of the art, and it's probably one of the most incredible immersive experience I've ever done. But I wanted to let you know that it's going to be Kevin Mack, Academy Award-winning pioneer, visual effects pioneer, and immersive artist. And he's been in the space for longer than anyone. Actually, Kevin, I think we met back in 2015. Was it?
Yeah,
it was pretty
14
early,
or 15, yeah.
14 or 15. Was it the Topanga Canyon?
Yes, the film festival, yeah.
Right? So I ran into Kevin back then, and yeah, both of us have been in the space for quite a while. And another one of my friends that's going to be speaking today is Dan Mapes. Dan Mapes is the co-founder of Versus, and coincidentally, he's also, hey, there he is, he's waving, he's in the green on the second tier. So Dan, coincidentally, he's also one of our members at Phase 2. I manage a space called Phase 2, co-working space in Culver City, and yeah, Dan and the Versus team is in our space. Before Kevin starts, we wanted to thank Molly Lavick, the founder of the AI Showbiz Expo, and it's just been an incredible last couple days of speakers on Zoom. And then tomorrow morning, I will be on stage myself early in the morning for all of you on the Pacific Coast at 7 a.m. But hopefully you can join me as I speak about Hologate. And I'm going to speak about, thanks Paul, I'm going to be speaking about Hologate and just my road in virtual reality and transforming just these hurdles that we're going through, these challenges into opportunities. So hopefully you can join me. But without further ado, oh, and then over to my right is Chris Crisatelli, founder of Dreamland XR. You guys may also know the VR festival that happens at CES every year, but it's also at Sundance, Coachella. Chris has really been one of the biggest evangelists for virtual reality and now XR in our space. So he's going to be recording the event. So as of right now, without further ado, I wanted to introduce Kevin Mack, and he's going to take it away as he describes his creative process for his immersive art. Let's all wave our hands instead of clapping. Thank you.
I don't have a prepared presentation or anything. I thought you were interviewing me.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Why don't you start with your slides if you'd like, and then I can ask you some of those questions.
Yeah. So this is just an image I made for Anandala. Anandala is my latest project, which is a big world. I've been working on it for a few years now, and it has these creatures, which are also in my other projects, Blurt Asia. You'll see them here in the Devalaya Rupanam exhibit, and then anyway, it's got these artificial life creatures that have their own language. They're aware of themselves and others, and they're very communicative and expressive. They're really just interested in expressing themselves. They're like they have their own musical language, and anyway, so there's a couple of images from that, and then that's from Blurt Asia. I know some of you here, this is old news for, but and then that was Zen Parade, and now here's the video of Anandala.
Incredible, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, why don't we get into a couple of questions that we wanted to ask you. And the first being, could you share us a little bit about your background with immersive art? Like, how did you transition from the world of visual effects? I mean, I knew you, or knew of you, because of your amazing work on As Dreams May Come and all these previous movies that I grew up just being in awe. And then to meet you later in this virtual space as you're creating this immersive art. Yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about how you made that transition and what inspired you to create this incredible immersive art, Devin?
Well, to be honest, I've been thinking about virtual reality long before I thought about doing digital visual effects. I've been dreaming of virtual reality art since I was a little kid in the 60s. And before there was a term for it, it was just something I had imagined being able to transport people into my imagination with technology. And so it was something I was really into, and you know, I didn't have the engineering background to invent it or anything. So as a kid, I would make drawings of crazy helmets and projectors and computer stuff that I knew really very little about. But in the 80s, I was working in traditional visual effects, doing traditional matte paintings and miniatures and concept art, storyboards, stop motion animation, and all of that kind of stuff. And I got into computer graphics because I felt that virtual reality was right around the corner. So I got I was like, I'm going to learn computer graphics because I'm going to have virtual reality soon and I'll be able to do that. And this is before digital visual effects. But suddenly I kind of found myself in the right place at the right time because I had been working in computer graphics, learning about it and making my own art with it. But I was working in traditional visual effects, and I saw, wow, this could change everything. And so I got to help pioneer the use of computer graphics for visual effects, and it wound up taking a lot longer for virtual reality to become feasible. So I wound up having a pretty long career and got to do lots of movies and win an Oscar and so on. But in 2014, when the prototype headsets finally became available, I just went in full time. I quit visual effects and I'm finally doing my live stream.
That's amazing. And the fortitude of waiting for this technology to evolve to get to this point where, look at, we're all in the space together and having an event while we're all probably in our underwear right now, and I think it's just a testament to just your visionary way and seeing the future, and it's incredible. And can you tell us a little bit? I was able to take a little tour with you yesterday, but can you tell us a little bit about some of the creations that you have in the museum right now? And you were mentioning to me that you actually had something to do with the development of the space. So I'd love to hear about both of those.
Well, I didn't have anything really to do with the development of the space other than being a participant in the early days. They asked me, I think one of my pieces was one of the first pieces that wasn't, one of the developers' pieces. So we would come in for a couple of years. We would have kind of parties in here once in a while, and they'd invite different artists to show stuff and whatnot. And it was a little different layout than this. This is a new museum that's all really, tricked out and with an architectural design and everything. But the original museum was pretty cool, and we would get in there and test everything, and it just got better and better and better until now it's this kind of amazing thing where the spatial audio is so effective, and they've got these avatars. Originally we were just little vibrating spheres, but it's come a long ways, and it's exciting. The piece, I have two pieces. One is what was, I think, the first piece in the museum, which is just a blurt from Blurt Asia, and it's right in the lobby just behind the wall near the map. And then my latest piece, which was for the opening of the new museum, is called Devalaya Rupanam, and I will guide you there shortly. But it is Devalaya Rupanam is Sanskrit for temple of all kinds of shapes, and it's kind of inspired by the idea of temples and churches that have kind of this iconography of saints, sculptures of saints, and this sort of real reverence for art. That's sort of built into it, the Sistine Chapel, and just on and on. There's this long history, and I wanted to create a kind of an abstract art version of a temple where the saints or the deities were these blurt creatures, these ancient elders from the distant future, as I call them. When I was a little kid, we moved into this house that had these agave plants, and I would sit in front of them, and they freaked me out because they were just so strange looking. And so I would sit in front of them, and one day they started talking to me telepathically, and then they showed me these incredible visions of other worlds. I was literally transported into these crazy other worlds, and that was where I kind of had this revelation of, like, what if you could do that? What if you could transport people to, imaginary places? And they told me that they were the ancient elders from the distant future, and that they were reaching back through time to recruit me so that I could, because one day I would help to create their ancestors. So the Blorts are the ancestors of the ancient elders from the distant future, and that's my story, and that's I'm sticking to it.
That's a great story. Would you take a few moments to explain to the audience what interactivity you can experience here in the museum? I was really impressed with the ability to, I'll let you explain it, just the ability to change and then even get more up close and personal with your art. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that before your tour later.
Okay. Yes. I'm a little nervous to demonstrate the drinks, which change your scale.
Right.
While I'm on stage, I think
Sure.
there might be some conflict there. But essentially, you can reach into your backpack and you can pull out a drink.
Nice. Look at everyone. Now we're having a happy hour.
If you tilt it way back, you will either shrink for the pink drink, the blue drink will make you normal sized if you were small or large, and the green drink will make you giant.
Oh, look at that. It's working.
There you go. We've got giants and tiny people just like that. And that's one of the things about my piece that's really fun is that I knew that was a possibility that they had that. So it's designed and parts of it are really fun to fly around in being tiny because it's already really big. So if you make yourself tiny in certain areas, it's pretty fun.
That's incredible. And then there's also this floating feature, right?
Yes. So they have, in addition to, of course, the standard teleportation, Robin and Colin, they in the early days, I created this Blurt Asia app here, which I developed a flying mechanic that doesn't make people sick. And so they basically implemented that, except without being able to go up high. You would just glide through the museum, and that worked pretty well. And now they gradually loosened up, so now in certain parts of the museum, you can actually float up, such as in my room. Yeah, so that's kind of where the origin of the floating thing.
That's amazing. And how did you come up with Blurt Asia? Is there a special meaning behind Blurt Asia also?
Well, yeah, it's the world of the blorts. It's, of course, a combination of the word blort and fantasia. And fantasia is kind of, this idea of a fantasy or whatever, or a daydream. Mm-hmm. And it's the famous Disney movie, and my father painted the backgrounds on Fantasia.
No
so it had great meaning for me. And so I named it Blurt Asia. And the blorts, the reason they're called blorts, it was just one of those names that you name a file in a hurry. And then it wound up sticking, and it's actually an acronym. It stood for blobs that have been rotated, translated, and scaled. So that's where blorts came from, but
I
it
love
kind
it.
of stuck, and so hence Blurt Asia came about. And I've been making them for decades, even long before Blurt Asia. They're just these kind of implicit surface models that. Let's see, yeah, here's one from Zen Parade, my first piece, which was the 360 video. It also features these blorts. And that one's on the Oculus store for the Go and all that. That's a 360 video, which is now, not quite the cutting edge, but I like I really love once I'd done that and I got it into Unity and I got a Vive, I made Blurt Asia, which was initially just an experiment to see, can I learn how to use these tools and what could I make, and it came out pretty cool. So I released it, and Colin, who's one of the founders of this museum, who I got connected to by a guy at Valve. He was really helpful as I was making Blurt Asia because he's a real game developer, and he's like, yeah, you kind of got to do this and you got to do that, and he helped me with getting it on Steam and polishing it and making the controllers do things, and he did a lot of testing for me to make sure that it was a cool thing.
Amazing. And when you were touring me around your art pieces, you were also describing to me how you were able to utilize some artificial intelligence in some of your creations. Was that accurate to say?
Yes. The Anandala, these creatures you see in these images, they're a form of artificial life. They have complex emergent behavior. I don't know exactly what they'll do. They have their own language. It's a real language. There's no samples or anything. They have control of a real synthesizer and can modulate their voices. And then the language itself is based on a form of artificial life called L systems, which weirdly I used in What Dreams May Come and also Fight Club to grow the tree in the brain. It's generally a formal grammar for describing complex branching systems like plants. But it is a string rewriting system, so it turns out it's actually kind of useful as a way of creating a language, because it's a formal grammar. So I use that, and of course, instead of branches and leaves and whatnot, it's creating vowels and pitches and durations of notes and so on.
It's amazing that your roots in visual effects as far back as Fight Club and as Dreams May Come is still lending itself to this new art. It blows me away, man.
I go all the way back to Airplane 2, man.
So were you responsible for the plane as it was flying through the clouds?
It was. I think it was the second one. It was the space shuttle and the moon and all of that. I think I did that. Yeah. Also the Abyss. I painted all the models on the Abyss.
Oh my gosh!
With lacquer out in the desert. It was a lot of fumes. I was pretty thrilled with the digital visual effects to not have to breathe all those fumes anymore.
We've come a long way.
Yes. So, is Dan going to do a presentation here tonight,
yes.
or we're going to skip that?
Hey Dan, what are you feeling? Did you want to just talk a little bit about verses, or what do you like to do, or should we postpone that to another time?
I think Dan left.
Oh, okay. Then I think we'll schedule it for another time. But,
okay.
Is there anything that you'd like to add, Kevin? Because I don't believe that we're going to be able to take questions, or any additional questions from the audience.
I'm happy to take questions, and we can just get off the stage, and then we can talk, and we'll wander over to the exhibit. And,
that sounds great.
I'm happy to talk to people.
Okay. Does that work for everyone? There, wave your hands if that'll work for you. Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for coming to this first ever museum event for AI Showbiz Summit. And we just wanted to thank you for your time and joining us as we try to get through these technical difficulties. But let's wave to Kevin.
Thank you for coming, everybody. I
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
It's fun to do this in VR.
Yes. All right. So follow Kevin, and we'll go for a little tour to his exhibits if you guys are still sticking around.
Cool. Hi. And I can hear you all now. So, hi. How are you? Yes. You're a bit quiet. Are you on a quest? You're on a Rift? You're a little quiet. Maybe I'm not sure where the microphone is on that, but I can hear you.
You hear my cat too?
Nope. Okay. Yes.
Hey, Molly.
Okay, here we go.
You probably can't speak to me, but glad you made it.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, Manny. Hey, Manny. Good to see you, buddy.
Hello.
You made
Hi.
it.
It actually works.
It's
great.
It's amazing.
I love it.
And go check out the art. I mean, the art, you'll see this little art, but then you can teleport inside of it, and then it becomes this whole other world